The Xbox platform is currently in third place behind the massively successful PlayStation 4 and the even faster selling Nintendo Switch. Microsoft didn't give up with the Xbox One and set in place new studios, new games lineup, and a whole new console that shook the gaming world with an entire year before the next console generation begins. With a few years of Xbox stumbling, games missing the mark, there are a slew of misconceptions and myths that have the masses assuming that Xbox Series X and the Xbox platform are due to repeat the fails of the Xbox One. This is Colt Eastwood. Welcome to the channel. If you're here, you're likely from one of two camps. One, you want to see what the truth really is about the next Xbox and how so many have it wrong. Or two, you've never really believed in the Xbox brand and you want to be vilified for your gripes and complaints about the direction of Microsoft's console platform. But be warned, this is an Xbox-centric channel, so I put a considerable amount of effort in finding out what the truth is behind these common myths and misconceptions. I know it's easy these days with PlayStation and Nintendo striking gold to assume that Xbox hasn't got something good in store for their fans, but we are going to clear all of that today. But first, hit the like and subscribe to the channel if you appreciate this content, and let's debunk some ridiculous claims for the Xbox Series X. Xbox has no games. This is the most common misconception because the Xbox shares its first-party exclusives with Microsoft's PC platform. In actuality, the claim of no games on Xbox keyed in on the very few exclusives the Xbox One hosted from 2013 to 2018. While PlayStation was leading with top-rated games, the Xbox brought new games such as Ice Boy and Remedy's obligatory bullet time game, Quantum Break, and poor man's Nier Automata as Recore, and Beautiful Water and treasure-chasing Sea of Thieves that all received mediocre reviews and sales. Mainstays like Crackdown, Halo Wars, The State of Decay also fell into that deficit of scores of sales. The only redeeming titles were Halo, Gears, and Forza, and Xbox knew this, but too late. In 2018, Xbox Game Studios had been bolstered up with Ninja Theory working on Bleeding Edge, Hellblade 2, and the all-new Project Mara. Rare had just showcased Everwild, an open-world mystical new IP with all the charm brought on by Rare's 30-plus years in gaming, and recently Phil Spencer stopped by the Initiative Studio to get his hands on their first game for Xbox. This is the team that is led by Daryl Gallagher, the mind and talent behind the Tomb Raider reboot, also led by Drew Murray, the creative talent behind Insomniac of Sunset Overdrive and Ratchet & Clank. Best guesstimates put the Initiative's brand new game as a perfect dark reboot in the quality and evolution we saw with Lara Croft in Tomb Raider 2013. All told, there are some 20 projects and games in the works right now from Xbox Game Studios that should be releasing in the next 1 or 2 years. All of these new games have been built from the ground up for the Xbox Series X in mind, knowing that those games will release into the new generation. And that brings us to our next misconception. No next-gen exclusives for 2 years. It seems every time a Microsoft executive speaks up about the future of Xbox, the media and fanboys run with an easy headline to downplay the intentions for Xbox. Matt Booty, the head of Game Studios, told the media that for the first 1 to 2 years, they would release all of their first-party content on the new console and the Xbox One console. Microsoft has promised to keep the Xbox One console from being left behind for the first 1 to 2 years, with a handful of games that have been developed before the generation ended. The transition into next generation is much easier, in fact, with the plan for developers to build the game for the highest denomination, which is on PC, and scale all the way down to the PS4 and Xbox One if they choose. In fact, next generation, I think we may see a 50-50 split of third-party developers choosing to release their games that play on both new generation and last generation consoles. What the media and others did not focus to headline from Matt Booty was that Xbox Series X gamers will get the absolute best version possible on the most powerful hardware in next generation on PC or the Xbox Series X. The PS5 is more powerful. One thing that we've learned, especially this entire generation, is that power matters. It mattered in great deal to the PS4 the first 3 years, and until the PS4 Pro was released, it still continued to matter. Power mattered even as the Xbox One X was released in 2017, and the PS4 was at a disadvantage for power. The massive majority of gamers understand that almost all of their games are shared across multiple platforms, and having the most power to make the games you love look and play the best is important. So power comes back into equation as a deal breaker. Several months ago, some insider leaks and supposed devs were claiming that the PS5 dev kit was more powerful than the Xbox Series X dev kit. We haven't heard a single word or claim from Sony that the PS5 is the most powerful. What we have heard multiple times is that Xbox is claiming to be the benchmark and the most powerful and fastest console, and they plan to hold that title for another 3 years, until Sony makes the PS5 Pro. Xbox has outright said there will not be a mid-generation console this time around. Obviously, to experts and market leaders, the Xbox Series X is going to be the most powerful and most expensive. PS5 wins in price at $100 cheaper until Microsoft introduces the Xbox Lockhart Series S. I've got a video all about that as well. It'll also be linked at the end of the video. But expect a 12 teraflop Xbox versus a 8 to 10 teraflop PS5. But most importantly, expect every single third-party game and Xbox title to look and run better than the competition on console. Oh yeah, and speaking of price, Xbox Series X is going to be $600 or $800. The Xbox Series X is a Zen 2 Navi-based next-generation console with 16 total gigs of RAM and housed in a PC-like case tailor-made for dissipating heat that comes from a 2 GHz clock machine. It looks expensive, and it is expensive. Breaking down the components by their PC desktop counterparts, pricing them at wholesale bulk distribution, and marking up for retail, blah blah blah, the Xbox Series X comes in at around $1,500 for a consumer desktop PC. But in the console space, on an assembly line for millions of units in the first year, the Xbox Series X is quite obviously a $500 machine. A few components throw a curveball into the more expensive territory, like this SSD, but the semi-custom parts make consoles subsidized for consumers at around $400 to $500. The only doubts experts and analysts have at this time is if PS5 will match the Xbox in price at $500, or have Sony take a loss to launch the PS5 at $400. But it's very clear that Microsoft wants the Xbox to retail at $500, and if that wasn't enough to convince you, Mark Cerny of PlayStation and Phil Spencer of Xbox both said that the new consoles won't be out of line for pricing in consoles in 2020. More of the same. This quote is directly pulled from Platinum Games studio head Atsushi Naba, who dropped the ball on Scalebound in 2017. Platinum Games has made some high-clip, fast-paced games like Bayonetta and Nier Automata, but they also specialize in making new games that look a generation behind. So it's ironic for Platinum to say that the next generation will be more of the same. Everyone else, even graphics leaders like EA with the Frostbite engine, are claiming that games on Xbox Series X will be, quote, mind-blowing. Hardware accelerated ray tracing, super fast loading times nearly eliminated, and high frame rates at 60 and above as a standard literally spells out that games on Xbox Series X will not be more of the same. In fact, another angle for this quote is that Xbox failed to make new compelling IPs or enough first-party games for the Xbox One that they would continue to not deliver games for the Xbox Series X. A cursory list for the next generation is Fable, Forza, Gears, Hellblade, Flight Simulator, Crossfire X, State of Decay 3, Everwild, and brand new IPs and games from Double Fine, Compulsion, and Global Publishing. I've got one more myth that needs to be debunked. Xbox is not competing with Sony and Nintendo. Well, this is true. Xbox is not even in the same league as Sony and Nintendo in console sales. PlayStation relies on hedging first-party exclusives and exclusive deals under the requirement of owning a PlayStation. Nintendo is doing exactly the same. Both have hinted at expanding beyond the plastic, but neither is brave enough to outright drop it on their die-hard fanbase. Expanded platform gaming on PlayStation and Nintendo is coming, but easing in like a pot of slowly boiling water. Fans jumping up and down and pointing fingers at Phil Spencer for avoiding competition with PlayStation and Nintendo are fully stuck in the console mindset of some 250 million gamers on those consoles. In actuality, the gaming space spans across some 7 billion players on multiple devices. Console hardcores cannot see past the millions of consoles sold and limited scope of games available to them, while the industry leaders see a global picture of regions across the planet having access to games where they want to play them, even if it means on their mobile phones. I don't expect gaming journalists, and especially console fanboys, to see beyond a world of PlayStations and Xboxes. But the industry moguls are already debunking the headlines that Xbox is avoiding competition with Sony and Nintendo, because they can see beyond 3 to 5 years to a world where Amazon and even Google, with their problems with Stadia, ramp up their gaming presence and add their global dominance credentials to gaming as well. Microsoft saw the writing on the wall years ago and built up Azure cloud infrastructure that soon PlayStation will be a customer of. And as internet grows exponentially over the next couple of years, Xbox will be in the prime position to sell their games, Game Pass, and xCloud to services all around the world. And while keeping a strong fight in the console and Windows gaming place against PlayStation and Nintendo, PlayStation may sell more consoles and even more games in the Xbox division, but Microsoft has more to worry about than one piece of plastic. The Xbox Series X is going to break out of the stigma of no games, with Xbox Game Studios working on over 20 games for next generation. Exclusives have always been a curse word for the platform, and with many of their exclusives releasing on the Xbox One, it's important for people to understand that games will be scaled down from the highest version to run best on PC and Xbox Series X. It's important for Microsoft for the new console to be the benchmark in gaming, and the Xbox Series X will be more powerful than the PS5. That power comes at a price, and from everything we are seeing, expect the Xbox Series X to come in at $500. The price will be well worth it because next generation will be a major leap, more of a leap than we've seen in console gaming. With advanced lighting, physics, and frame rates, all games will look and feel incredibly improved over anything that we've played in the past. And yes, Xbox will be competing with PlayStation 5 and the next Nintendo console, but they will also be competing with major moguls in global gaming across streaming, mobile screens, and new services that will be dominating the ecosystem across all platforms. But more than anything, be excited for the Xbox and the next generation of consoles, because they will be in a large universe of games, more incredible experiences, and most importantly, more flexibility to play what we love, where and when we want. This is Colt Eastwood. Thank you so much for watching. I feel as an Xbox content creator, I'm constantly trying to correct bad takes about Xbox from the media and reader service driven sites, and I can understand why. Xbox has had a really rough generation with the Xbox One from the beginning until they turned it around in 2018. But what you'll see is guilty until proven innocent, as sites expect the worst from Xbox first. Covering this list of misconceptions was fun, and I can also tell it'll be largely ignored in favor of, it's more fun to be negative. So help out the channel by liking and sharing this video on social media with friends. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see weekly content about gaming, and hit the bell to be notified of the latest Xbox Series X news. Join the channel or Patreon for early access to contents and updates. Add me on Xbox and Twitter at Colt Eastwood. You can message me there if you have any questions or comments. This video will probably start some fights and shouting matches, so good luck in the comment section. I understand that many of us have strong preferences and will never likely switch a platform, or maybe some of you would never get near an Xbox, but be mindful of others and be respectful, and as always, be nice.